Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some incredible Islamic parables. And these aren't just, dusty old tales. They are packed with powerful lessons about our faith, our deepest inner battles, and the long, winding path to redemption.
So let's just jump right in with a really tough question. It's a question a desperate widow once put to the prophet David. And man, it really gets to the heart of how we think about fate, fairness, and whether there's a divine plan at all.
All right, here's the roadmap for today. We're going to look at the unseen divine plan, then some wisdom from a surprising source, the battle against ourselves, a sinner's path to mercy, and finally, the kind of legacy we can leave behind.
Okay, first up, the unseen divine plan. This is all about trusting what we can't see. We're talking about the idea of dhakel. That's this complete, rock-solid trust in God's plan, especially when life feels totally random or just plain unfair.
So check this out. Picture two things happening at the exact same time, but they seem to have nothing to do with each other. On one hand, you've got a poor widow, and a bird just swoops down and snatches the only thing she has to make a living, a shawl she just finished weaving. At that very same moment, out on the sea, a ship full of sailors is going down in a massive storm. They are absolutely doomed.
And this is where it all comes together. Two stories, but one single plan. That bird? It drops the widow's shawl right onto the deck of the sinking ship, and the sailors manage to use it to plug the hole and save their lives. They are so grateful that all 10 of them chip in 100 dinars each. They take that 1,000 dinars back to the prophet David, who then hands it right over to the widow. You see? What felt like a total disaster for her was actually her salvation.
And we see this idea of trust play out again in another amazing story. This time it's about two blind beggars. The first one prays directly to God for help. But the second one, he prays for help from the Queen Zubaydah, who is known for being super generous. So the Queen decides to help the second guy. Every day she gives him a cooked chicken with gold coins hidden inside. But, and you won't believe this, he never even checks. He just sells the chicken for cheap to the first beggar. So after 10 days, who do you think is rich? The guy who trusted in God's bounty, not the one who was looking for a handout from the Queen.
All right, so we've talked about trusting the divine. Now let's switch gears a bit. Our next theme is about finding wisdom in the last place you'd ever expected. I mean, what if you could get solid advice from your worst enemy? That's exactly what happened to the prophet Moses when he got some counsel from iblis, Satan.
So Iblis comes to Moses and says, listen to 3 of my 1,000 counsels. Now, of course, Moses is like, no way, I'm not listening to you. But then God steps in and tells him, look, most of what he says is a lie. But listen up, because 3 things he's about to tell you are actually true. So Moses agrees.
And get this, the advice is actually really good. First, Iblis says, when you decide to do a good deed, do it right away. Don't wait, because I'll find a way to make you change your mind. Second, when you're alone with someone you shouldn't be with, I'm right there with you, whispering temptations. And third, when you feel that hot rush of anger, just get up and move. Change your location. It's a way to break the spell before he can turn that anger into a full-blown fight. Pretty solid advice, right?
So in exchange for the advice, Iblis asks Moses to put in a good word for him with God. And forgiveness is actually offered. But there's one condition. Iblis has to bow at Adam's grave. And this is where his true nature, his fatal flaw, comes out. It's pure pride. He says, I did not bow to him when he was alive. How can I bow to him now that he is dead? And just like that, he throws away his one and only chance for redemption.
That whole story about pride, about Iblis being his own worst enemy, is the perfect lead-in to our next big idea, the battle against ourselves. This is the real war, the inner struggle against our own ego, our own desires, what's called the nafs.
Okay, this next one is intense. There's this pious man who gives a woman shelter for the night. But then he starts to feel tempted, right? He feels that pull of lust. So what does he do? He decides he has to fight fire with literal fire. He sticks his finger into the flame of a lamp and tells himself, if you can't even handle this little bit of pain, how are you ever going to handle the fires of hell? And he keeps doing this, one finger at a time, until all 10 of his fingers are burned. By morning, the temptation is gone, and his spirit is stronger than ever.
So ruin or righteousness? That was the choice facing a blacksmith in Egypt. A beautiful woman, totally desperate, comes into his shop needing help. He's immediately smitten, and he tells her, yeah, I'll help you, but only if you give in to me. She refuses and leaves. But things get so bad for her that she has no choice but to come back. So this time, he closes up his shop, takes her to his house, and locks the door.
And as soon as he does, she just starts shaking with fear. He asks her, "Why are you so scared?" And her answer changes everything. She says, "You're locking the door because you're scared of what people might think. But my God sees everything. How can I not be afraid of him?" And bam, those words just hit him like a ton of bricks. He completely breaks down, repents right then and there, gives her everything she needs, and sends her home safely. That very night, he has a dream where he's told that because he chose to fear God more than his own desires, God had granted him divine protection. Fire can no longer burn his hands. And from that day on, it was true. He could literally pick up red-hot iron without getting burned.
Wow. I mean, resisting temptation is one thing, right? But what happens if you've already messed up? What if you've lived a life of sin? Well, these next stories are all about showing that the door to mercy, to redemption, is never really slammed shut.
This is maybe one of the most powerful stories of all. It's about a man who spends his entire life as a grave robber, stealing the shrouds from dead bodies. So his neighbor is dying, and knowing this guy's reputation, he gives the grave robber a really valuable shroud as a gift, basically hoping to bribe him into leaving his own grave alone. But it doesn't work. Greed takes over, and the man digs up the grave anyway. But just as he reaches for the shroud, he hears a voice cry out from the corpse, "Do not make me naked!" And in that one moment, his whole world shatters. He's filled with this overwhelming, genuine fear of God for the first time in his life. So when he's on his own deathbed, he feels so worthless, so ashamed, that he tells his son, "Burn my body, scatter my ashes to the wind. I don't even deserve a grave." But God restores him and tells him, whoever fears God, God takes him into his protection. Because he finally truly feared his Creator, he was shown mercy.
And that story of ultimate redemption brings us to our final theme for today, the legacy we leave behind. The idea that our actions, our choices, can echo long after we're gone.
Take the story of the hand that gave. Years after the death of Hatim al-Tai, who was legendary for his generosity, there were these heavy rains that were about to wash away his grave. So his family goes to move his body, and when they open the grave, they find that his entire body is turned to dust except for one thing. His right hand, the hand he always used to give charity, was perfectly preserved, as if he had just died yesterday.
And that legacy, it can also be carried on by our children. There's this beautiful story of a son who would visit his mother's grave every single Friday to pray for her and for all the other souls in the cemetery. One night, his mother comes to him in a dream and tells him just how much joy his visits bring her. She says all the other souls get excited and tell her, "Bahia, your son has come." And then, a little while later, the son has another dream. But this time, it's a huge crowd of people. They tell him, "We are the people of the cemetery. We've just come to thank you for your prayers. Whatever you do, please don't stop." His personal act of love was bringing peace to an entire community of souls.
So how do we keep this awareness, this connection to what really matters, with us in our day-to-day lives? Well, the famous traveler Ibn Battuta tells an incredible story about a shopkeeper he met in Shiraz, like 700 years ago. This shopkeeper had his own grave, fully prepared, headstone and all, right in the middle of his shop. And when Ibn Battuta asked him why, the man said, "I have turned my workplace into a graveyard so that I do not forget God and do not cheat my customers." It was his constant reminder.
And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? I mean, we live in a world that is just full of distractions, a world designed to make us forget what's truly important. But that shopkeeper, hundreds of years ago, he literally built a permanent reminder of his ultimate purpose right into his daily grind. And that kind of begs the question for all of us, what's ours?